All right, we've reached the end of 2024. I just did my top 50 songs of the year, and now we are moving on to albums. So these are my top 50 albums of 2024. And just like the songs list, man, this one was incredibly difficult to cut down just to 50. Yes, this year really was that good. I also probably listened to the most amount of albums I ever have in a year span. I do want to start with honorable mentions real quick because we do have a lot, way more than we've had in previous years. Starting with Cindy Lee, Diamond Jubilee. I feel like if I didn't get to this album so late in the year, it would have been a lot higher because it is a very long 2-hour album. So I didn't really have enough time to fully digest it, but I did like what I was hearing. I think it has some of the best guitar work I heard on any album this year. Smile, Wall of Eyes was really good. Ali X, Girl with No Face, one of the best pop albums this year. Panache, Quantum Baby, one of the best R&B albums this year. Caliucci's Floating Points had a killer house album. Jamie XX2. Really like that debut album from English Teacher. I feel like they're going to do special things in the years to come. Willow really surprised me with how much she's grown as an artist. That Biba Doobie album had a lot of tracks on it I loved. And lastly, shout out Godspeed You, Black Emperor, whose message on their newest album is just as powerful as the music on it. Now, getting into the top 50. At number 50, I have Father John Misty, Mahashmashana. Really good bounce back album from him, and I think it sees him dipping his toes into other genres more than he ever has. Number 49, Chief Keef-Almighty So 2. Not only has Keef really grown as a producer, but he's getting a lot more open on a lot of the songs on this album as well. Number 48, the really smooth indie rock album from Niloufar Yanya, My Method Actor. Number 47, one of the greatest indie songwriters of all time, Mount Yuri, Phil Elverum, Night Palace. A long one from Phil, but it delivers some of his most experimental and creative songwriting in a while. Number 46, Doechii, Alligator Bites, Never Heal. I think this mixtape did exactly what it was supposed to do for her, showcase her talents as a rapper and why she is one of the most exciting artists out. Number 45, Nala Sinefro, Endlessness. If you're into jazz at all, you're really going to want to check this out. It's a beautiful, spacey, ambient record. Number 44, The Cure, Songs of a Lost World. It's really rare when a legendary group like this takes such a long hiatus and drops a quality record, but The Cure did exactly that. Robert Smith has not lost it at all. Number 43 is maybe the most underrated rap album of 2024, and that is Blue and Exile, Love the Ominous World. Number 42 is the excellent dream pop album from the band The Marias, Submarine. Number 41, Justice, is back in true form with one of the best electronic albums of the year, Hyperdrama. Number 40 is a stunning jazz album with wonderful vocals, Arooj, Aftab, Night Rain. Number 39 is a concept album from one of the most legendary rappers of all time, Lupe Fiasco-Samurai. Only Lupe Fiasco could make an album about Amy Winehouse if she was a battle rapper. Number 38, one of the most gorgeous albums of the year, Julia Holter, Something in the Room, She Moves. Number 37, I can be really picky when it comes to death metal, but this group did it for me because the production on this album rips and it's sequenced so well. It's knocked loose, you won't go before you're supposed to. Number 36, Ka, The Thief Next to Jesus. Rest in peace, Ka. He seriously left behind one of his best albums. The soulful gospel sounding beats on here are some of the best stuff I think he's ever been on. Rest in peace to one of the greatest to ever do it. Number 35, Brittany Howard, What Now? Some of the best vocals of the year, and she's doing it over a palette of many different production choices. Number 34 is one of the biggest pop albums of the year. That is Billie Eilish, Hit Me Hard and Soft. I think Billie really matured as a songwriter. Phineas killed it on the production end, and the vocals are so good on here. I think she really proved some of the whispery doubter haters wrong. Number 33, Iglooghost-Tidal Memory Exo, one of the most wild electronic albums of the year. Yes, it goes as hard as the album art. Number 32, Mach-Hommy, Rich Ass Haitian. I think this is my favorite album from Mach-Hommy now. Some of his best bars, some of his best flows, some of his best songs, period. Number 31 is a standout pop album from Rachel Chinariri, What a Devastating Turn of Events. Great debut pop album, Rachel really showing off her storytelling and songwriting skills. It blends pop with rock, shoegaze. One of the best pop artists out of the UK right now. We are now at number 30, and that's going to go to Mustafa Dunya. This was one of my most anticipated albums of the year, and I think it's a little bit underrated, especially because he has such big names on it. I'm talking Jid, Clairo, Rosalia, Daniel Caesar. Yeah, it didn't seem like it got enough love, but it is a great folk album, and I cannot praise his songwriting enough. Number 29 is another pretty underrated one for me, and this one's from a pretty prolific band, and that's MGMT-Loss of Life. Sure, it might not be as catchy as their previous albums, but the band had a lot to say on here. Number 28, Remy Wolf, Big Ideas, a pop album filled with wittiness, charisma, personality, fantastic vocals, catchiness. Number 27, Gene Dawson, Glimmer of God, a bit of a different one for Gene's standards, but I think it's his prettiest album to date. The string arrangements on this album are phenomenal. Number 26, Joey Valance and Bray, No Hands. There's no album this year I had more fun listening to than this one. I love how they blend house music with like the early rap sounds of NWA and the Beastie Boys, and their lyrics are silly as hell. Number 25 is Mr. Consistent, Denzel Curry, King of the Mischievous South, Volume 2. Denzel going all in on the Southern sound, and is just nothing but banger after banger after banger. Number 24, we finally got a new album from No Worries, Anderson .Paak, Knowledge, and it was well worth the wait. It is a heartbreaking breakup album. Number 23, an album that is so pretty it will make you cry, Laura Marling, Patterns in Repeat. Number 22, an album that is so haunting it might make you cry, and that is the legend Beth Gibbons of Portishead fame, Lives Outgrown. Number 21, one of my favorite rock albums of the year from none other than Jack White, No Name. I think Jack delivered what is his best solo album to date. The riffs on this album go so damn hard, and energy-wise, it feels like Jack is back in his White Stripes era prime. All right, we are now entering the top 20. At number 20 is my country album of the year from the same person, 2 years in a row, and that is Zach Bryan, Great American Bar Scene. I actually think I like this album even more than I did his album last year. Zach just continuing to be one of the most poetic country artists out. Number 19 is one of the best R&B albums of the year from Raven Lenae, Bird's Eye. She has such a standout voice, and she has really improved on the writing end. Number 18, no Clairo shade over here, Clairo Charm. I think this is her best album. El Michaels Affair killed it with the production, one of the best produced albums this year. Number 17, Schoolboy Q, Blue Lips. Glad that Q on this one was back to his more experimental ways, messing with a lot of different song structures. Again, it's filled with both bangers and really vulnerable moments as well. Number 16, Nia Archives, Silence is Loud. She is killing it in the jungle drum and bass scene in the UK. And with her songwriting and her stunning soulful vocals, she really stands out. Number 15, Yeet 2093. Yes, I actually really loved a Yeet album because I feel like with this album, Yeet is really pushing the boundaries when it comes to that rage sound. Super cinematic, it's spacey, it's one of a kind for the genre, and I like what he is doing. Number 14, Beyoncé-COWBOY Carter. Yes, Beyonce made a country album, but it is a country album done on Beyonce's terms because she blends the country sound with a bunch of different genres. I really think it's the most ambitious album of her career, and she's even trying a lot of different stuff vocally that I don't think she ever has. Just another great installment in this 3-act series. Number 13, it is my R&B album of the year from Flo Access All Areas. I have been dying to hear the debut from these three since like 2022, and I can say it lived up to all the hype, that throwback 90s, 2000s soul R&B sound they have, but they do it in such a modern way. The chemistry is on point, the vocals are on point, the production is on point. Flo is the future. Number 12 is Porter Robinson, Smile XD. Porter getting more honest and personal than ever on this record. It still has his classic electronic sound, but mixed with stuff from like the Postal Service. It also digs into different topics like the dynamics and the relationship between fans and the artists. Went for something a little different on here, and I really respect that, and I think it was well executed. Now, just missing the top 10, number 11, Vince Staples, Dark Times. The name of this album and the cover art really do speak for what the music is. This is truly one of the most depressing rap albums, both in terms of the sound and the lyrics, that I have heard in years. Number 10, just know whenever this guy drops an album, he's always going to end up somewhere in my top 10, and here he is again. JPEG Mafia, I laid down my life for you. I mean, lyrically, it sees Peggy doing what he always does, but for him, this one's a bit different because he's going into more of like a rock feel and direction, and he's messing more with like strings, which I think makes for one of his coolest albums. Shout out JPEG Mafia, the guy really has not missed. Number 9 is one of the saddest albums I think I heard this year, and that is Adrianne Lenker-Bright Future. Adrianne is, simply put, one of the greatest living singer-songwriters. The best written album of the year. The production is elegant. If you love folk music and you haven't heard this, what are you doing? Go listen to it. Number 8, it is Tyler, the Creator, Chromacopia. This is now 4 amazing albums in a row from the guy. And on this one, he's more open and honest than ever. A lot of themes from him about getting older, feeling paranoid, and generally just getting a lot of feelings off his chest. Truthfully, I'm not sure if there's an album I related to more this year than this one. Number 7 is The Last Dinner Party, the prelude to Ecstasy. This is one of the best debut albums, I swear, in like the past 10 years. They are really putting on for theater kids all around the world. Prog rock pop album with standout vocals, and this is just their debut. So if their debut is this good, who knows what they're gonna go on to do with their sophomore album. Number 6 is Quadeca Scrapyard, a more of a mixtape compilation thing, but it is my favorite thing that he has done so far. It's really difficult to pin down exactly what genre this is because it blends so many different things, but I just love how experimental and weird it is. Quadeca with this one, I feel like, has really carved out a unique lane for himself and his own sound. And apparently he has an album coming out next year, and I cannot wait. Okay, we have now entered the top 5. Number 5, Vampire Weekend, Only God Was Above Us. I've always liked Vampire Weekend, but I don't think I've ever loved an album more than I have this one. To me, this is the best album they've ever made. I love how layered and grand the production is throughout this album. Melodies, the writing are just so stand out. Again, their best album to me. I've gone back to it over and over and over again throughout the year. There's a pretty big gap between this one and their last album, and I think this one was worth the wait. Number 4 is my rap album of the year, Kendrick Lamar GNX. Kendrick is coming off one of the biggest years that anyone, I think, has ever had in music, at least in recent memory. I mean, he won one of the biggest rap beefs of all time, followed that up with the huge pop-out show. Now he's headlining the Super Bowl, and the cherry on top, the true victory lap, was him dropping this record. Sure, it's not like as conceptual as Kendrick's previous albums, but I think some of his catchiest songs ever are on here. He's still trying new things with his vocals and his flows and his deliveries, really getting weird. And the classic storytelling Kendrick tracks are still here. Reincarnated, I seriously think, is one of his best songs ever. This album has been out almost a month now, and I have not put it down since it came out. I really think this is one of his most addictive records. All right, top 3. Number 3, Geordie Greep, The New Sound. Geordie Greep of Black Midi went solo this year and delivered one of the most wild albums of the year. This thing mixes jazz and rock and Latin and Brazilian sounds. But what is most insane about this album is the lyrics and just how insane and unhinged they are. Really getting into this character about this guy who was like wildly egotistical. And don't get me wrong, I love what Black Midi did as a group, but what he did solo with this record is one of the most unique projects I've heard in years. And now the runner-up, number 2, Charli XCX, BRAT. What is there to say about the year that Charli had? It was a BRAT year, it was a BRAT summer, it was a BRAT fall, it was a BRAT winter. For me personally, this was a huge return to form for Charli after not loving her previous album Crash, because it saw Charli getting back into the sounds and the ways that made her such an exciting pop artist to begin with over the last several years. Bringing A.G. Cook along to help with the production certainly helped that. And it's just an album that aesthetically is so her. It's no wonder why it resonated so hard with people. I mean, that club sound that she went for on this album was incredible. It has some of the catchiest pop songs of the year with tracks like 360 and Apple, and also some of the most personal tracks of her career, like I Think About It All the Time and Sympathy Is a Knife. It's just awesome to see someone who has been doing it as long as Charli finally get her flowers in the mainstream and doing it in a way that, again, is just so authentic and so real. And it had a cultural impact unlike any album I've seen in such a long time. I've known it for years, but if it wasn't obvious already, Charli is a once-in-a-generation pop artist. And finally, number one, we are at the end. My album of the year for 2024 is Magdalena Bay, Imaginal Disc. I love this album. This album is perfect to me. The best produced album I've heard this year. The build-ups in all these tracks, the crescendos, the way these tracks are made are just mind-blowing. It is cinematic. It really feels like something that came from another planet. It has a really cool concept too that I'm still kind of pulling back the layers of, which is one thing I really like about this album. Is every time I go back to it, like, I figure out something else I love about it. But it's kind of like the science fiction about this protagonist who is going through the ways of finding their true self. And I haven't even talked about yet how stunning Mika's vocals are on this album. I love her voice. In my opinion, this is one of the best pop albums I've heard this decade. Yeah, my album of the year, 2024, Magdalena Bay, Imaginal Disc. And that's it. We are done. Those are my top 50 albums of 2024. I'll have the full list in the description if you want to, like, search them up, listen to them. Some of the reactions I had to some of these records will be in there as well. If you guys want, hit that subscribe button down below. Follow me on all my socials, TikTok, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, all that. 2024, an amazing year. See you guys soon.